Good morning, government class. Want to say something before I forget. Don't worry for this week about trying to take down the notes on the frame routine or on your own sheet. I realize that just holding up my sheet with the notes isn't really working. It's kind of hard to see that way. So for this week anyway, I'm just going to be sending you a sheet of the completed notes for your reference for our discussion on Friday. Hopefully, I can use the next couple of days to get a little bit more proficient with editing videos using a Chromebook. Used to be better at this when Microsoft still had their Movie Maker stuff available, but they don't anymore. So I'm having to kind of relearn this, but old dogs can learn new tricks sometimes. So anyway, we finished yesterday with um, talking about the committees in the House and the process of turning a bill into a law. The next part of that process is scheduling floor debates. So when a bill is passed out of committee, before it goes to the full House for a vote, it has to be scheduled. And this is the process by which that happens. Okay, before it goes to the floor for consideration, a bill reported by a standing committee is placed on one of several calendars in the House. A calendar is a schedule of the order in which bills will be taken up on the floor. Okay, there are 5 calendars in the lower house. The calendar of the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union, commonly known as the Union Calendar, is for all bills having to do with revenues, appropriations, or government property. The House calendar is for all other public bills. The private calendar is for all private bills. Remember, we talked the other day about the different kinds of bills that can come before the House. The corrections calendar is for all bills from the Union or House calendar taken out of order by unanimous consent of the House of Representatives. These are most often minor bills to which there is no opposition. Then the discharge calendar is for petitions to discharge bills from committee. We talked about that the other day. The discharge petitions are the way in which a member of the House can get a bill that has been pigeonholed in committee out of committee anyway in order to be voted on the full House floor. Under the rules of the House, bills are taken from each of these calendars for consideration on a regularly scheduled basis. For example, bills from the corrections calendar are supposed to be considered on the second and fourth Tuesdays of every month. Measures relating to the District of Columbia can be taken up on the second and fourth Mondays, and private bills on the first and third Tuesdays. On calendar Wednesdays, the various committee chairmen may each call up one bill from the House or Union calendars that has cleared their committees. If this all sounds very confusing, yeah, it is. And really, it's that way by design. Uh, the founders did not want it to be easy to change or add or delete laws. So you kind of have this Byzantine, confusing, uh, stress-inducing way of having to do things that are all done by parliamentary rules, and you can't change things very quickly, which is a good thing in a lot of ways, because we don't want people just making laws off a whim. But it can also keep the government from being able to respond to things in a timely manner when things are moving quickly. You have kind of an unfolding disaster like we have with the coronavirus right now. Things can seem to be a little slow moving in Washington sometimes when we have a situation like what we do now. Okay, so then we have the Rules Committee, and the fact that the Rules Committee can set conditions on when or even whether or not a bill comes up for consideration. Okay, none of these arrangements is followed too closely, however. What most often happens is even more complicated. Remember that the Rules Committee plays a critical role in the legislative process in the House. It must grant a rule before most bills can, in fact, reach the floor. That is, before most measures can be taken from a calendar, the Rules Committee must approve that step and set a time for its appearance on the floor. Okay, so now we've got another level of complexity, kind of pain in the neck stuff that has to happen. By not granting a rule for a bill, the Rules Committee can effectively kill it. Or when the Rules Committee does grant a rule, it may be a special rule, one setting conditions under which the members of the House will consider the measure. A special rule often sets a time limit on the floor debate. So the Rules Committee can say, okay, we're going to debate this bill to increase pay for active duty service members, but you have exactly an hour and a half or whatever time period in order to debate it. And at the end of that time period, according to this rule, debate's going to be shut down and we're going to have a vote. It may even prohibit amendments to certain or even any of the bill's provisions. So Rules Committee may say, okay, we're going to send this bill on increasing active duty military pay to the full House, but no one can attach an amendment to it. We're going to discuss or debate this bill as it is written. It cannot be changed on the House floor. We're just not going to allow that to happen. The only way we're going to debate this is if it's an as-is bill with no changes. Then, too, certain bills are privileged. That is, they may be called up at almost any time ahead of any other business before the House. So some bills can be considered so important that they basically get to cut in line. The most privileged measures include major appropriations or spending and general revenue or tax bills, conference committee reports, and special rules granted by the Rules Committee. On certain days, the House may suspend its rules. So you've got all these complex rules, this big pain in the neck, and then sometimes the House can just decide to do away with the rules for a day. A motion to that effect must be approved by 2/3 vote of the members present. When that happens, as it sometimes does, the House moves so far away from its established operating procedures that a measure can go through all the many steps necessary to enactment in a single day. Okay, so here's one way in which the House of Representatives can say, hey, we are facing a critical time in our country. There's an emergency going on. It may be wartime. It may be a pandemic like we're currently under with COVID-19. We're going to suspend all of our rules for today so that this bill that we need to pass into law in order to help deal with this rolling crisis can go ahead and take effect without having to wait the weeks or even months that most bills usually take before they're passed into law. All of these, the calendars, the role of the Rules Committee, and the other complex procedures, have developed over time to help members of the House manage their heavy workload. Because of the large size of the House and the sheer number and variety of bills its members introduce, no one member could possibly know the contents, let alone the merits, of every bill on which he or she has to vote. So this is a big part of how we manage with a House of Representatives of 435 people, any of whom can propose a law, can submit a bill, and there's no way for any of these people to know everything that's in every bill that's proposed, which is one reason that they have big staffs. They have people, clerks and people working for them, among whose jobs are to read bills that are proposed and things like that. But a lot of times you'll get people running into minor scandals where they might vote in favor of a particular bill that might be controversial. And a reporter might ask them, why did you vote for this thing? Did you consider the ramifications of this vote in favor of this bill? And you might get a representative, well, I didn't quite read all that bill. But a lot of times these bills can be hundreds of pages long, and it is a little unreasonable to expect representatives or senators to be able to read every text of every bill they vote on, which is a little frightening in and of itself to think, okay, we live in a representative democracy or a republic. We elect these people to go and pass laws for us in the Congress, and they're not able to always read what they're voting on. That seems a little strange, but the fact is that we live in a country of 350 million plus people, and there's really no way to get around having to have it that way. So anyway, remember, don't worry about taking notes. I'm going to provide you with full notes for this week. If you have any questions about the project for Government for Xlandia project, let me know. I'll try to send out some more details about that today. All right. Talk to you guys soon. If you have any questions, just email me.